Uber and Lyft drivers, what's your most NSFW story? I had a passenger roll down the window and scream suck my fucking dick at a deer. She said she really didn't like deer. I did a little over 500 trips for Uber last year and the only thing remotely NSFW I experienced was this really hot girl asked me to zip up the back of her dress when I picked her up. Phew haha. That was cool. I don't drive for either of those companies, but I had a pretty bizarre fare once. I picked up a guy and a girl midday Saturday for a short ride couple of kilometers. The girl seemed drugged out of her mind and was wearing somewhat revealing clothing, so it was pretty clear they'd been partying the night before. While driving I picked up their conversation which they were not even attempting to hide. It was pretty clear that the guy had a girlfriend who was not the girl in the car, and that he had just hooked up with this girl. They were currently heading to his girlfriend to explain what had happened. To be clear, he is bringing the girl he was unfaithful with along to explain to his girlfriend that he just ducked her. He tipped well though. Same friend. 3 occasions over a year. 1. Guy was drunk and pulled his pants off and started playing with himself. 2. Girl decided she was happy and pulled her top off for her other friend that wasn't so drunk to feel her up. Friend apparently flipped out. 3. Guy passed out drunk so he checked and his pulse was low. Took him to the hospital. Turned out the guy was overdosing on Xanax and alcohol and he saved his life. We have a driver here who has been advertising on Craigslist and has his girlfriend ride in the back seat and arranges specific pickups so she can give you a hand job during your trip. Some friends and I Ubered back late at night after a party. Being intoxicated AF, my friend sitting next to me started to heave, so I work my quick thinking, opened the window, pushed him to puke outside in the freezing February air. He did his duty and we were all thankful that he decided to puke outside. Eventually, we arrived by my house and get out. I look on the outside of the car and the puke had frozen all along the outside of the car by the window. The side of the car was covered in puke. We spent an hour helping the poor Uber driver clean it by throwing hot water fr inside the house and someone quickly scrubbing. A few months ago this lady came into my car whilst busily talking on her phone. Yeah, you can't tell anyone on the team yet. No, I haven't told anyone at all. I was secretly eavesdropping, as I usually do, trying to figure out what kind of job she had. The details are kinda gruesome. The poor thing was lying there for a while after it happened, because there was no one around. These bastards took everything from her and tried to steal her car, but they apparently ran over her and they just booked it. Her body was practically split into under one of the wheels. It was only a couple hours later someone saw it and called us. She was still alive when we got there. Hey listen, I gotta go. We'll talk more soon. We had reached her destination, church. She got out of the car with a quick thank you. If it counts, 20 plus years ago I drove for a sedan service. I picked up one of the Temptations and took him to get drugs and a hooker. It certainly wasn't safe for my work at the time, but everything worked out okay. He came out of a luxury resort and gave me a sketchy address. When we arrived, it was an abandoned convenience store, so he told me he was looking for some company. Yeah, I knew where to find that, and along the way, he said he was looking for some medicine too. So we stopped in the ghetto and got him something to smoke. Cold bean weed, or crack or anything, I don't know, and I didn't ask. After being told duck you, cop more than once, we found a pretty young lady of the evening. He asked where she's been all night. She said she's been right there waiting for him. She got in the car, they kissed and groped in the backseat on the way back to the resort, and he gave me a decent tip. INB for the inquiry. No, it was not David Ruffin. Well, there was the guy who proceeded to get but naked in my backseat while piss drunk and change into a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle costume. It was Michelangelo, for the record. While I've had a few crazy rides, my buddies takes the cake. Around 1 AM on a Saturday he gets a ping that's at 200% surge near the bars. He picked up a well-dressed man who's sober, and once he's in the car he asked to be taken to the casino. He was picked up in Dallas and the casino is in Oklahoma. Feeling bad, he warned the guy, "Are you sure that's a 70-mile trip and you're on 200% surge?" Guy says it's fine, and he's happy my buddy is getting paid. They enjoy a nice trip and have some normal talk, and once they get to the casino, my buddy ended the ride and netting himself $300. The guy then realizes he doesn't have a ride home, so he makes a deal with my friend. "Look, I'm gonna go gamble for a few hours. If I give you $250 now, will you wait? And when I come back, I'll give you a NOTHER $250 for waiting and another $500 for the trip back." Buddy agrees and takes a nap until Guy done. Guy comes back and gives him the cash, and they head back home. During the small talk, the guy says, "Look, you've been great and seemed like a stand-up guy. I want to throw another $500 your way if you let me suck your dick." This dude wanted to pay my friend $500 just to suck his dick. When you ask him what happened next, he just laughs and says, "Well, rent was due. And if the worst way to make $500 is pretending a chick is blowing you, then it's not so bad." Driver makes $1,300 for an 8-hour drive and agreeing to let a guy blow him. Not an Uber/Lyft driver, but I did drive for a taxi company. I had a fare where 2 drunk people who were making out in the back of my cab. This isn't unusual on its own. Happens quite often. Just gotta stop them before shit gets out of hand. Well, one of them decides to stop making out and says to me, "Don't tell anyone, okay?" Curious, I ask why. He responds, "We are cousins and we don't want our family to find out." Then they went back to making out again. I didn't once think they could have possibly been cousins. Never saw either people before or after. Could have just kept his mouth shut and I'd never have known. Why would you disclose that information to a stranger? So my dad is an Uber driver and he says that girls my age, I'm in my early 20s, will drunkenly try to make him go home with them all the time. One time there were 3 girls who drunkenly were singing to Taylor Swift, and they made my dad record them singing the song, and then they made him sing some of the lyrics. He showed me the clip of them singing and him singing later. It was hysterical. Then they invited him to go to the next bar with them, but he had to keep working. Also, one time an Uber driver told me a girl tried to drunkenly make him hook up with her at her house, but he said no cause he's married. And when she got out of the car, she gave him the middle finger and turned around and lifted up her miniskirt and flashed him lol. I guess Uber drivers get lots of ladies. My 2 stories would have to be a lady who was kinda drunk and kept asking me questions and moaning slightly every now and then. When she got out of the car, I checked the back seat and there was a Sharpie, a sticky Sharpie, that was obviously used for something. The other was 2 strippers that had a long ride and kept daring each other to flash me, give me a back rub, suck my earlobe. That progressively got to the point where one dared the other to hook up with me when we got to their house. Edit. Yes, I hooked up with the red-headed stripper. I had recently broken up with my girlfriend, and it was a real ego boost to feel wanted like that by someone that hot. I thought it was implied sorry for leaving people hanging. I picked up a client who said he was on his way to the hospital to get something removed. It was very clear by his movements that he had something stuck in his ass. I asked if he needed an ambulance instead, but he said he didn't have insurance, so he couldn't afford it. After I dropped him off and helped him in, I got back in the car and looked back to find a bloodstain on the seat. The morals of the story are: 1. If you're poor, don't shove things in your ass that can get stuck. 2. Never get light gray upholstery in your new car. Seems like the moral of all this is that if you are an Uber driver, then you should cover the entire passenger section of your car in disposable plastic. I work for a company similar to Uber. Oftentimes you have to play therapist for drunk customers. They will lay out very personal details about their lives to you. One customer told me about how her ex-husband has been hospitalized several times due to complications from alcoholism, and that they told him that the next time he comes in, he'll likely die. She told me that she really hopes that the father will die before her 17-year-old son turns 18, because she doesn't want him to have the responsibility of having to decide to pull the plug. Another ride started with the customer asking if I played Overwatch, and within 5 minutes she was crying and telling me about her friend who committed suicide. One ride I couldn't find the window button. We drive the customers home in their own cars, so the customer reached over for it, very clearly moving her hand across my groin on the way. She also refused to sign her check unless she could write her number on my arm, and slapped my ass as I walked away. Another customer asked me for change, and I handed it to him as his other hand was on his deck, peeing in his front yard. Another customer, whose car interior was absolutely covered in cigarette ash and butts, told me about how her daughter recently got hooked on meth by her boyfriend, and how she hates black men because her black father left her as a child when he went to prison. I could go on. Edit. Sorry to break it to you all, but this service is in Fargo, ND, not Florida. Also, we drive the customer's car, are picked up by our partner in a follower car, and go to the next one. Picked up a handful of drunk high school kids at 2 AM. They just finished their graduation party and they were hammered. One of them threw up in the back. We had to stop on the side of the highway for him to get everything out of his system. He went behind the bush and did a number 2, but he didn't have any tissue. It was fucking disgusting the whole way. Puke and shit are a surprisingly nasty combination.